Hey, your friendly neighborhood geek here, doing another movie review, this time on Poetic Justice. Yes, I really love this movie. I saw it recently for the first time. I'm kind of glad I saw it and well, at this point I'm 23, so I'm glad to have saw it early mid 20s. So yeah, it felt it felt a little bit more relatable in that sense instead of me seeing it, when I was maybe like 18 or, if I was like older 20s. But anyway, yes, this is a very good movie. This was directed by John Singleton. He also directed Boys in the Hood, which I unfortunately have not seen yet, but I will watch it eventually. So yes, this stars Tupac and Janet Jackson and Regina King and a lot of other well-known actors or actresses during this time. So, yeah, what is this about? Well, it's basically like a young adult romance movie, romance drama. Janet's character, she works in a hair salon. She witnessed her first love get shot and killed right in front of her at a drive-in movie that they were at. They were on a date. So that kind of like that kind of made her kind of distance herself and not really want to get into another committed relationship. And she hadn't really came across anybody who she felt like was worthy of, getting involved with. And then we have Tupac's character, who is a male delivery driver. He unfortunately had a child with someone who wasn't really right for him, but he has a cute little girl. Um, and they meet. They He ends up meeting her at her job at the salon she worked at. But their first meeting between each other was very negative and yeah, not that good. Not a positive experience. But her best friend, played by Regina King, um, is dating one of Tupac's colleagues slash, yeah, I guess you call him his friend in the beginning, co-workers, and the four of them kind of get together to go on a trip. Tupac has to him and his friend had to make a delivery to, I think like Oakland or something like that. Um, and the girls tag along, and a lot of stuff happens. A lot of stuff happens during that trip there, and once they get there, something really major and kind of tragic happens, which I won't spoil for those who haven't seen this movie. But by the end of the movie, of course, they actually do really hit off, Tupac and Janet's character. And yeah, it's just like I said, seeing them finally kind of come together was really sweet and wholesome. But this is, like I said, a really solid romance movie. I highly recommend it. Check it out. Hey, your friendly neighborhood geek here, doing another horror movie review from the 80s. 1987's The Lamp, or its other name, The Outing. This was directed by Thomas Daly. And yeah, I love this movie. It's really good. I've only seen it once. It used to be on YouTube for free, and then I guess it got taken down. But if you type it in on Google, you'll be able to find a website where you can watch it for free if you're interested. I definitely consider this a movie that's more fun with friends. So what is this about? Well, it starts off with these three criminals robbing this old lady. They come across this lamp. One of them rubs it, and it summons this evil genie monster. Which the genie puppet or monster in this movie looks really good. The effect, the special practical effects in this movie are really good. Of course, they all get K worded. They all get K worded. It's funny when you see it. And then we move on to our real main characters. We have this girl and her friends. Her father, I believe, is a curator for a museum, and they end up getting a hold of the lamp, or her father ends up getting a hold of the lamp so it can be put on display in the museum. I forgot. So eventually, I think her and her friends end up sneaking into the museum to spend the night, kind of have a sleepover, which sounds really cool. And of course, her father is unaware of this. I think there's a security guard on duty, but he's like, somehow he doesn't see them, sneak into the museum or whatever. And I forgot if she rubbed the lamp. I think she did. And she accidentally, not knowing, she summoned, the evil genie. So all this stuff. So the genie kind of like uses his powers to like imagine Night in the Museum, but if it was kind of a horror movie, like some of like maybe say there was a mummy on display, or there's a set of armor on display, or a skeleton dinosaur, or a taxidermy bear or something on display. The genie could have brought it to life, and it would have K-worded somebody or one of the friends in the friend group. There are some other people who come to the museum who deserve what's coming to them, but I won't spoil that storyline. But yeah, like I said, it's just a lot of fun. It's a lot going on. It kind of, I can't remember how it ends. It may have ended open ended. So take that as you will. But like I said, it's a fun horror movie for what it is. It's a movie you would kind of throw on at a party if you and your friends are into these type of movies, or this era of horror movies. But yeah, I recommend The Lamp. Check it out. Peace. Hey, your friendly neighborhood geek here, doing another fan film type of review. This time on Metroid, I think it's called Attack of Ridley or something like that. Yes, for those who don't know, I love Metroid, big Metroid fan. I've played a handful of the games. Metroid is a Nintendo property. I think everybody knows who Nintendo is at this point. The series originated like in the 80s, like the mid 80s. It was inspired by, the Alien franchise and the sci-fi horror genre. Um, and it stars Samus Aran, who's a famous bounty hunter. She fights space pirates and all this other cool, crazy stuff. Has a really interesting backstory and all that good stuff. So, what is this fan film about? Well, she is going. So it starts off with her in her ship, which looks really cool. The effects in this fan film was really cool. The fan film's around like 8-10 minutes. um Excuse me. So like I said, it starts off with her and her ship. She's heading to like an ice planet, where she's looking for a Chozo artifact. Chozo were these this ancient race of bird people who ended up raising her when she became an orphan. Why she became an orphan, well, you would have to read into that for yourself. I don't want to spoil it. There is a manga that explains her backstory, which is worth a read if you're interested in knowing more about the series. So I will let you read that, and you can find out how she became an orphan. Now, like I said, so she's going to this ice planet. Again, the everything looks really cool. The effects, the set looks really nice. Her suit, as you can see behind me, her suit looks really cool. The actress who played her did a decent job. So she goes to the ice planet to retrieve this Chozo artifact. She ends up finding it, ends up linking to her power suit. She's able to use it as like a weapon. And Metroids show up. Metroids, being the creatures, the namesake of the series, are these alien creatures that drain the life out of any organism they get a hold of. So some Metroids show up. She takes them out. She tries to recover, like she's trying to catch her breath. So she takes her helmet off, which is kind of a dumb thing to do, but I won't get into that. And Ridley shows up. Ridley is a space pirate captain. He's like a purple pterodactyl looking thing with wings, and he's really crazy looking. Very iconic villain. He shows up. They kind of have a confrontation. I wish the fight between them was a little bit better choreographed, but she ends up fleeing and returning to her ship and taking off. And like I said, it's cool. I like it for what it is. Check it out. Hey, your friendly neighborhood geek here, doing another obscure review, this time on a Transformers subline called Transformers Robot Masters. Yeah, this subline expanded from 2004 to 2005. Yeah, this to me is like an oddity in the Transformers universe, because like I said, it's just kind of random. And there was a 2 episode series with very dated looking CGI animation um, of the Autobots Decepticons fighting each other. So the first episode, which is what I really want to talk about, was the 2 episodes that were made for this toy line. We have Optimus Prime in the desert fighting, I think, Starscream and uh, maybe another character. I can't remember. I don't know if Megatron was there or not. But out of nowhere, Megatron from the Beast Wars continuity shows up, and he's kind of so him and Starscream are kind of ganging up on Optimus. I think Optimus Primal shows up, so the Optimus Prime from the Beast Wars continuity shows up, and I forgot the character's name. Star Saber, yeah, Star Saber, another character from the I think the Japanese continuity. Um, and yeah, I apologize for the non-Transformer fans. This is a lot, so if you're really interested in Robot Masters, you could just go to the wiki and read up on it. I'm going to give like a summarized version of what it's about. But yeah, so like I said, we have all these characters fighting in the desert. I forgot the reason why. Eventually, the Decepticons retreat. Excuse me. And, Star Saber, Optimus Primal all come together and, decide to remain working together to stop the Decepticons before, I guess, Optimus Primal returns to his time period. Episode 2, we see, excuse me, Optimus Prime, who we've never seen before. That's suspicious. Who transforms into a tank. Never seen Optimus turn to a tank. And he's helping Optimus Primal. I can't remember if Star Saber was there in this one. So I think another Megatron show, maybe the G1 Megatron shows up, and the Beast War Megatron. Find out that the Optimus who turns into a tank was actually a Megatron in disguise. Which I think that figure that they made of that Megatron, I thought that was really really cool. I wouldn't mind having that. And yeah, Leo Prime, a Lion Optimus, a lot of Optimuses shows up and helps them fight. Like I said, this is very weird. It's a very weird toy line, very weird like 2-episode show. But yeah, check it out if you're interested. Hey, your friendly neighborhood geek here, doing another cartoon review. This time on a very very obscure, in my opinion, cartoon called the Mighty Hercules. Yes, I love Greek mythology. I love mythology, period, especially Greek mythology. I'm a big Hercules fan. Um, I think most people are familiar with the Disney version, which yeah, I like that. That's one of my favorite versions as well. But yeah, Hercules has had, of course, several movies, shows. But I think the Disney one and the one starring Kevin Sorbo, a very talented actor. I think those are maybe the two people may remember the most. But yes, this came out in the 60s. I think it only had 2 seasons. I think this was a Canadian cartoon. Um, so yeah, what is this show about? Well, we have Hercules, who in this version, I'm not sure if he was born on Mount Olympus. In mythology, he was half human, half god. He was one of Zeus's children, so he was a demigod, basically. But yeah, I'm not sure if he was born on Mount Olympus, if he was born a full god. I don't know, but I think so the show starts off with him on Olympus. He tells Zeus that he wants to remain on Earth so he can protect, mortals, protect the people from all sorts of dangers and monsters and stuff like that. And Zeus grants him his wish. So whenever he's in a fight with someone or someone who is maybe stronger than him, he puts on a ring. Yeah, it kind of reminds you of like Green Lantern, or I know the Flash, or another character, or other characters who use rings. Um, yeah, he puts on a ring. He says I can't remember what he says, but uh, lightning strikes the ring, which is supposed to represent Zeus's power, and he gains his superhuman strength. He's able to, defeat the bad guy or save the day or whatever. And yeah, it kind of gives him a more superhero-ish kind of approach, and I do like that. It's creative. Back when this show was popular, there were you could buy like a little replica of his ring, for children, which I thought was really cool. I would love to have that as a collectible. So yeah, so it's just a very straightforward show. He had his girlfriend, he had a supporting cast, he had some arch enemies. Like I said, it was just it was the '60s, so it was a very straightforward cartoon. Some evil thing happens, and Hercules has to go save the day. One thing I will say, this version of him favors the animated version of Superman from the animated series Justice League Unlimited. I really like that, and I do think that Hercules was inspiration for Superman. So, hey, your friendly neighborhood geek here, doing another short film review. This time on a very iconic and classic Lego fan film from the 80s called Lego The Magic Portal. I apologize. I tried to get a better backdrop to represent this movie, but I couldn't find one that would fit on the TikTok app or whatever. Yes, this was directed by Lindsay Faley, not sure how you say his last name. He does appear in the fan film, which is really cool, so you can see him when he was younger. But yeah, for those who don't know, Lego fan films are a pretty big thing, and you see this came out in the 80s, so Lego fan films have been around for many, many years. I think Lego, the company of Lego, is rather 100 years old or close to it. So let that sink in. Lego's about 100 years old. Let that sink in for a minute. But yeah, this is really good. Some people feel like the first Lego movie kind of made a reference to this movie because of how iconic and how big it was to Lego's history. And like I said, there's been other fan films that were made a little bit earlier before this came out. And I think there may have been some controversy about it. I think Lego was trying to sue Lindsay Faley because of him making this. Like, they thought he was trying to make money off of it, which of course that wasn't the case. He was just doing it out of fun, out of, a passion for the brand. But I think that went, that they took care of that. He didn't get sued or anything crazy like that. But anyway, so what is the Magic Portal about? Well, we have this spaceship which has these kind of, not kind of like Star Trek, but like we have like these kind of group of space troopers or space astronauts or whatever, and we follow a astronaut named L. And while he's on the ship, he discovers a strange door that he's never seen before, and he goes through it, and it sends him to another world, basically, where he comes across different creatures that are made out of like Lego bricks and Lego pieces. And again, like, it's very creative, very cool. And yeah, and he comes across a creature that tries to eat him, and he manages to escape. Eventually, his commanding officer and his fellow astronaut P kind of get sucked into this as well, and they also go through the portal. They meet a little claymation creature, which ends up being friendly, and the four of them kind of work together to try to return to the ship, escape the monster that tried to eat L in the beginning of the film, or earlier on in the short film. And yeah, it's a lot of fun. They kind of break fourth wall, which is really funny. But yeah, I recommend this film. It's awesome. Give it a watch. Hey, your friendly neighborhood geek here, doing another cartoon review, this time on Donkey Kong Country, the animated series. Yes, this came out in 1998. I think it had 2 seasons. This was originally a French cartoon, or it was developed by a French animation studio. And then, we got it in the States. Yeah, I like this show. As a kid, I grew up as a Nintendo kid. Donkey Kong was my favorite character. Donkey Kong Country is what I kind of grew up playing. I mean, I played Smash Brothers, I played Mario, some of the Super Mario games, but Donkey Kong was like my guy. That was my series to play all the time. So unfortunately, I didn't see the show growing up. If I saw the show growing up, I'm sure I would have been all over it. I did grow up watching Sonic X and Kirby Right Back at Ya. So yeah, and I might talk about those maybe down the line. But anyway, yeah. So like I said, it's a very charming show. I like the voice cast. I recognize some of the voice actors. I know the voice actor who voiced Donkey Kong. I think he voiced T-Bone in the PBS Clifford cartoon. So that's interesting. Yeah, excuse me. So yeah, what is this show about? Well, it takes place on Donkey Kong Island, but I think they call it Congo Bongo Island. There's singing in this. And so if you're not big on that, then you may not like this show. There are musical numbers, but some of the musical numbers in the series are bangers. They actually hit. They hit. Yeah, another fun fact. I watched this during the pandemic. Like, the beginning of the pandemic, I binged this show. And I just find that kind of funny. Like, any show I could have watched, I watched the Donkey Kong cartoon. But anyway, yeah. So like I said, singing this, which isn't really bothersome to me. What is this show about? Well, like I said, it's briefly based off the first Donkey Kong Country game. So Donkey Kong is king of Congo Bongo Island, and there's like this crystal coconut or something that has this was like an ancient relic, ancient power. King K. Rool, who you see the crocodile-looking character behind me with the crown on his head. He's like the main villain of the series, and him and his minions are trying to find ways to steal the crystal coconut and steal, I guess, some of DK's bananas and all types of crazy stuff. And Donkey Kong, his nephew Diddy Kong, his grandfather Cranky, his girlfriend Candy, his friend Funky, and Diddy Kong's girlfriend Dixie all, contribute to the cast of characters and, of course, help him on his adventures. And it's a lot of fun if So if you're interested, yeah, go give the show a watch. Hey, your friendly neighborhood geek here, doing another obscure animated movie review. This movie is called Feliday. This came out in '94. It's a German adult animated mystery film. This is based off a novel from 1989, I believe. Yeah, I really like this movie. I found it, a YouTuber I follow reviewed this movie some years ago, and that's how I discovered it. I've seen it a couple times. So if you're a cat lover or animal lover at all, this may not be for you. This is graphic and gory. It has some really nightmarish, creepy, scary scenes. It's an adult animated film, so it's definitely not for children. But if you're an adult, you're an animal lover, cat lover, I don't know, you may not really like this all that much. But if you can look past those things, then I think you would like it. So, excuse me, what is Feliday about? Well, we have our main character you see behind me, Francis. He's a house cat. Him and his owner just moved into a new neighborhood. He gets a little acquainted with the other cats in the area. Excuse me. He comes to find out that there have been a lot of grisly murders taking place on a lot of female cats. I'm not sure if any of the male cats get murdered or not. So he kind of goes, ignore that notification if you heard it. He kind of goes on a, like a detective. He's like kind of like a detective. He goes searching for, who's causing these murders. It's like this big mystery. There's a lot of other characters who could possibly be the culprit. He finds out, as the movie goes on, he gets closer and closer to who it actually is, and we do find out who it is. There's this final confrontation at the end, and like I said, for what it is, it's really good. I mean, you have like a cat murder mystery. I mean, that had never been done or seen before. I mean, especially for this to be based off a novel, which is cool. So like I said, they did something. They took a mystery, a murder mystery plot, but have it center around cats. That's cool. That's creative. So like I said, it's fun for what it is. I think it's like an hour. So yeah, the animation still holds up. I like the English voice cast. Everybody did a reasonable job, and like I said, it's just a fun, thriller mystery movie. I highly recommend it. Check it out. Peace. Hey, your friendly neighborhood geek here, doing another movie review. This time on Fantastic Mr. Fox, from 2009, I believe. Yeah, I remember when this movie was advertised, and yeah, I wanted to see it, but my mom wasn't really into these type of movies, so yeah, I didn't get to see it in theaters. But I saw it some years ago, and I saw it twice recently. And yeah, it still holds up. It's really charming, solid movie. This was directed by Wes Anderson. I'm not familiar with his other movies, but I do know he has done also, artsy, indie artsy kind of movies, artistic kind of movies. So, like I said, this movie was done in stop motion animation, which I think really adds to the charm of the story. Stop motion animation is like when you have physical figures, puppets, and someone animates with them. You move them frame by frame, take a picture. Um, like yeah, so for me, growing up, I being exposed to stop motion, making amateur stop motions myself when I was younger. I love stop motion animations. One of my favorite, if not my favorite, style of animation. I grew up seeing Wallace and Gromit, and some other children media that use stop motion. So yeah, this story is based off a children's book called Fantastic Mr. Fox, written by Roald Dahl. He is responsible for such stories as Willy Wonka, the Chocolate Factory, James and Giant Peach, The Witches, the BFG, Big Friendly Giant. I'm sure many other stories, but those that I know are like his most well known, and those have been made into movies. I'm not sure when he passed away. Surprisingly, he didn't like a lot of his adaptation, so I don't know if he ever got to see this movie or not, and what he thought of it. But like I said, I thought I thought this movie did the story justice. So what is it about? Well, we have Mr. Fox, our fantastic Mr. Fox. He steals livestock from farmers. Um, his future at the beginning of the movie, she wasn't his wife yet. His future wife Felicity goes on his basically his last at the time his last hunt, and they get captured, and she tells him, she's pregnant. If we survive this, I want you to find a new line of work. And so he kind of goes clean for a couple of years after they have their son, and eventually he gets back into that lifestyle, and a whole lot of other stuff happens, but it's really good. It's a really charming story movie. Check it out. Hey, your friendly neighborhood geek here, doing another movie review. This time on Speed Racer from 2008. Yeah, I remember when this movie was being advertised way back then, and I was kind of a little familiar with Speed Racer, but of course I wasn't really into cars growing up. Still not really into cars. Or race cars for that matter. So, like I said, Speed Racer really didn't appeal to me too much, especially the original cartoon. I think came out in the 60s, so, seeing that really old cartoon as a kid really didn't appeal to me. But yeah, I saw this recently for the first time. This was directed by the Wachowski brothers. They're the same people who directed the Matrix trilogy and a crap ton of other projects, but I think they're mostly known for their Matrix movies. Um, I think, yeah, they were a big fan. I'm assuming they grew up with this show. I'm assuming, they were a fan of anime, especially because there is the Animatrix. So, yeah, I might review that one day. Yeah, so yeah, it kind of makes sense why they would do something like this. Yeah, this movie's cool. It just felt like a live action cartoon, and I really like that. I haven't seen a movie that really tried to do what they did with this movie. They try to make it like the cartoon as much as possible, and that's not a bad thing. Everything about the world, even like the house that Speed and his family live in, felt very cartoony. And like I said, that's not a bad thing. I think that adds to the charm and uniqueness of this movie, or the style of this movie. It's had a decent cast. Really, only two actors I can remember from the top of my head is John Goodman, who played Speed's father, Pops, which was really cool that John Goodman was in this movie. And Christina Ricci, the actress who played Wednesday in the 90s Addams Family movie, she played Trixie, Speed's love interest slash girlfriend. Um, yeah, so what is this about? Well, we have Speed, that's his name, Speed Race. That's his name, Speed Racer, which is kind of funny. Oh yeah, the Speed Racer series is owned by Tatsunoko, who were known for doing other anime shows during that period, the 60s period or whatever. But anyway, yeah, so we see him as a little boy. He had an older brother who was a racer, and it was like his whole family. Racing was a core part of their family. So of course he grows up. He wants to be a racer. Um, a lot of stuff happens, but basically it's about racing. And like I said, other stuff happens in between that adds to the story. But yeah, Yeah, if you're interested, go watch Speed Racer. Check it out. Hey, your friendly neighborhood geek here, doing another cartoon review, this time on Captain N, the Game Master. Yes, this came out in 1989. It had 3 seasons. The first 2 seasons were like 20-minute episodes. The last season, I think, only had like 11-minute episodes. Um, yeah, this is a charming show. I really liked it. I've known about it for some years now. I know, of course, it's centered around video games, so that was really cool to me. So what is Captain Ed about? Well, we have our main character Kevin Keene. Again, I love his name. Both start with a. I think they both start with the letter K, like mine. Um, Him and his dog Duke are, well, he's the opening of the show. We see him in his room playing video games, like playing like Super Nintendo or whatever. Um, this portal opens and his television, and him and his dog Duke get sucked in, and then now he's a cartoon character, and he goes to video game land. Excuse me. He goes to video game land, where he has to help Princess Lana and her subjects, the other protagonists of other video games. So we have Simon Belmont from Castlevania, Mega Man from Mega Man, a Rockman in Japan, and Pit slash Kid Icarus from the video game Kid Icarus. Um, yeah, so they kind of go on adventures together. Mother Brain, who is the main villain from the Metroid franchise, her and her two minions, King Hippo, who's from the Punch Out series, and I think Eggplant Wizard, who's from Kid Icarus. Um, they're she's the main protagonist of the series, so she's trying to take over Video Land and become its ruler. Lana's father, the king of Video Land, went missing, and we do get into what happened to him as the series goes on. And yeah, that's kind of the gist of the series. Kevin and company go off on adventures, and they meet other characters from other video games like Legend of Zelda, Tetris, some other games. And yeah, it's a lot of fun. This is just a fun, cute series. I think some of the issues some people kind of have is like the representation of the characters were accurate to the games. And the reason for that is because I think the writers really didn't have a lot to work with this series. Like they were given like footage of gameplay, but without any like context. And they just kind of like took what they saw in the footage and just kind of made their own thing with it, which again I think is cool. But yeah, it would have been nice to see, the accurate versions of these characters or whatever. But yeah, this is a fun show. I recommend it. Give it a watch. Check it out if you're interested. Yeah, go watch Captain and the Game Master. Peace. Hey, your friendly neighborhood geek here, doing another cartoon review, this time on a cartoon pilot called Bubsy the Bobcat. For those who don't know, Bubsy the Bobcat was a mascot or video game character during the 90s. I believe this pilot aired in 93. This was around the time, like, for those who don't know, Sonic the Hedgehog came out in 91. Um, and when he became really popular, other companies try to like copy off that success and create their own IPs to rival Sonic. One of those characters was Bubsy, who had a handful of games. To my knowledge, all of them are kind of considered not that great. He had a game that came out, I believe, like 5 years ago, like on modern consoles, which I think was decent. So yeah, Bubsy has an interesting, history. I think there's a few collectibles too if you were interested in buying some. But yes, this stars Rob Paulson as Bubsy. Rob Paulson is a veteran voice actor. He's probably been in all the things you've seen growing up. Animaniacs, Jimmy Neutron, a whole bunch of stuff. And I believe also Jim Cummings is in this, and he's a veteran voice actor as well. Same goes for him. He's been in like everything you saw growing up. He was, I think he was Winnie the Pooh. So yeah. So what is this about? Well, we have Bubsy and his sidekick Arnold, who's an armadillo, who acts like he has PTSD or something. And his niece and nephew come to stay with him for their birthday. Why their parents wouldn't be, you know, celebrating their birthday with them is questionable, but like, yeah, that's something to think about. Excuse me. Yeah, so they're kind of like rambunctious and all over the place. And Bubsy goes, there's a scientist who has this who wants to test his invention. It's like this helmet. You can wish for whatever you want, it'll make it happen. Bubsy goes to test it, to test the helmet, and it works. The villain of this pilot, this female cat, and her minions are trying to get the helmet, and they kind of, so they kind of get into it with Bubsy and his niece and nephew and his sidekick and the professor. They're all kind of fighting over this helmet and all causing all this crazy stuff to happen. They eventually get it back. I think it ends up like exploding or something. Yeah, it's wild, but I can see why this didn't, take off. But it's okay for what it is. Hey, your friendly neighborhood geek here, doing another awesome anime, old classic 80s anime review, Fist of the North Star, the movie from 1986. Yes, for those who don't know, Fist of the North Star is a fairly popular series, with collectibles, toys, games, spin-offs. I think they had a series in the 60s, in the late 60s. They had a TV show that had like 60, 70 episodes. So there's a lot of content for those who want to get into the series. Yeah, I recommend it. I love Fist of the North Star. So what is it about? Well, like I said, this came out in 1986. This is basically a summarized version of the story, so it's a little bit more straightforward. They kind of cut some characters out and cut some, some story elements out, which isn't a bad thing. Like I said, there's, you could go watch the original series if you wanted to kind of get a more extended version of the story or narrative. So what is it about? Well, the world basically went to shit. I think there was a World War III, which caused everything to go into chaos, and everything's desolate, and now there's only the strong and the weak. We follow Kenshiro, who trained under a martial arts master who taught him, I believe, Hatano no Ken. I think that's what the fighting style is called in the series. So like I said, he knows martial arts, and he also knows certain like pressure points. So he might do something to you. The animation is dope. He might do something to you when he's fighting, and then he might touch a certain pressure point on your body, which can make you explode or something crazy like that. And he'll have like a catchphrase like "You're already dead" or something, and then the person, oh, they explode, and it's crazy. But trust me, when you see it, you will like it. The title behind me says this is the most manliest animated film of all time, or something like that. Yeah, it deserves that title. Another fun fact: I think this is one of John Cena's favorite animes, which I could see. He considers it kind of like a masterpiece in a sense. Like I said, so we follow Kenshiro and his girlfriend. He is attacked by his ex best friend who steals his girlfriend from him and defeats him. He's left for dead. Some time passes. He eventually returns to rescue his girlfriend Yuria. He fights other antagonists along the way. He fights his ex-friend, his ex brothers who didn't come to his aid when all this happened, who turned evil. And yeah, like I said, it's a lot of fun. I love this movie. Hey, your friendly neighborhood geek here, talking about DreamWorks' Road to El Dorado. Yes, this is a really good movie, and it still holds up. This came out, I think, March 31st, 2000. Wow, this movie is over 20. That's crazy. Yeah, this movie had 3 directors. Unfortunately, I don't remember all their names. That was a lot to remember. So yeah, but still, 3 directors worked on one animated movie. That's pretty cool, honestly. This movie had a solid cast. It had a great soundtrack. Hans Zimmer, who's a well-known, I think, music composer, And Elton John did a lot of the music for this movie. I did not know that. That was really really cool because there are some musical numbers in this movie, but they're good, they're catchy, they're charming, songs or whatever. So basically, what is El Dorado about? We have two con men who you see behind me, Miguel, and I forgot the other character's name. And they basically kind of win slash steal a map. That could lead them to El Dorado. For those who don't know, El Dorado is like an ancient myth of a city of gold, like during like the 1800s or something. Spanish conquistadors went searching for it. Yeah, so that's where the myth originated from. That's where this movie pulled some of their story from. But anyway, yes, so they receive a map. They stow away on a ship led by um, a Spanish conquistador, I think, named Hernan Cortez. Um, they eventually have to leave the ship, out of fear of getting caught. So they escape on one of the boats, not safety, emergency lifeboats or whatever you want to call them, along with the horse, and they manage to find their way to the island of El Dorado, where they travel through the island and they get to like this big like door, type of thing that seals off the land from the rest of the island, the rest of the world. They meet a girl named Chell, who's a native girl who kind of figures out that they're not really so once they meet the people of El Dorado, the people of El Dorado think they're gods. Chell sees through what they're doing, but she's like in on it, like because she wants to leave. Some other stuff happens. We have our villain of the movie who was really good, and then eventually figures out that they're not gods and tries to K-word them. Like this is a really charming, really good movie. I highly recommend it. Check it out. Hey, your friendly neighborhood geek here, talking about Sinbad, Legend of the Seven Seas. Yeah, I like this movie. This is a really cute, charming action adventure movie from DreamWorks back when they were still making 2D movies. Which I haven't seen all of them. I know I still need to see Prince of Egypt and maybe one other movie that's based off the Bible I think they made. Yes, this came out in 2003. This was directed by Tim Johnson and Patrick Gilmore. Cool, a duo. Duo directors are always cool to see. Yeah, this stars Brad Pitt as Sinbad. To my knowledge, this may have been his first. I think maybe his first acting role. Little piece of trivia for you. A friend of my dad's is a fitness trainer, and where I live in Georgia. So this was maybe like I think the northern part of Georgia. And he met Brad Pitt at I think a Starbucks, and he told him like what he did or whatever, and Brad Pitt was interested and gave him his information so they could possibly work together down the line. So that was really really cool. He got to meet Brad Pitt. But yes, and his co-star is Catherine Zeta-Jones. She's been in a lot of stuff, so if you're not familiar with Catherine Zeta-Jones, just Google her. Oh yeah, Michelle Pfeiffer's in this movie playing the villain you see behind me, Eris, the god of chaos. And a couple other, well-known, actors, voice actors. I forgot his name, the black man from the kind of the older Allstate commercials. With a really nice deep voice. He's in this as a supporting character, so that's really cool. Yeah, so what is this about? So we have Sinbad, who, for those who don't know, Sinbad is like a classic action adventure character from literature. He and his crew are, I guess, basically like they try to, I think, rob a ship, but the ship happens to have the Prince of Syracuse, which is the major city in this movie. Him and the Prince and Sinbad. The Prince's name is Proteus. Proteus and Sinbad were childhood friends, but they kind of separated once they reached a certain age, and Proteus hadn't seen Sinbad in many years. So they kind of they get attacked by a monster. Some other stuff happens. Sinbad. So basically, Sinbad he's been framed for stealing the Book of Life, and he has to go on an adventure to retrieve it. If he fails to do so, then Proteus will be killed because Proteus took his place of exile. But of course, that doesn't happen. Like I said, it's a fun watch. Hey, your friendly neighborhood geek here, doing another interesting horror movie, science fiction horror action. Well, yeah, science fiction horror movie from 1961. I saw this on Svengoolie, of all things. I knew about this movie for a couple years, but I hadn't bothered to watch it yet. Yes, excuse me, I will be talking about Conga. Why is that name? That's something about the name Conga. Just it works. Like it sounds like a ripoff of King Kong, and you're probably thinking this is a ripoff of King Kong. But surprisingly, there are a lot of ripoffs of King Kong, but that's a story for another day. I might do Queen Kong at some point. Yes, there's a Queen Kong. But yes, this came out in 1961. I think directed by John Lemmet. I'm not familiar with his other work. This also stars Michael Go. He was the actor who played Alfred in the Michael Keaton Batman movies. And he also played, Alfred up until the last one with George Clooney. And I forgot the actor from Batman Forever. I forgot his name, but that one as well. So yeah, pretty cool. He had a pretty interesting career. So what is this about? Well, Michael Go plays a scientist who goes on an expedition, I think, and rescues a baby chimp or something like that. He injects the chimp with some type of formula that turns the chimp into a gorilla, basically. Kind of like Titano, for those who are familiar with Superman, kind of like the Titano character from Superman, the chimp who turned to a giant ape. Yeah, so there are people who, like other colleagues, other professionals, people who threaten like his well-being or his success, and he kind of uses Conga as a weapon to get rid of people or kill people, and it kind of gets out of hand, and a lot of other crazy stuff happens. It's cool for what it is. It's kind of a slow burn. I like it. Uh, but yeah, like I said, it's cool. If you like these type of movies, these old kind of monster movies, I think you'll like it. Unfortunately, Conga, like he does a lot, but when at the finale, it's fairly dull. He's not like King Kong, like anything like that. He's just kind of like just stand around. It's cringe. It's kind of cringe, but again, it's good. It's a fun watch if you like these movies. I recommend it if you're interested. Check it out. Hey, your friendly neighborhood geek here, doing another Barbie review. You can never have too much Barbie in your life. Yes, this is an interesting one. For those who don't know, I didn't know. I actually saw this a couple weeks ago. There was a Barbie cartoon pilot in the 80s. And it's funny because, it never dawned on me, like, why was there never, like, a traditional Barbie cartoon? Like, we got the, straight to DVD 3D movies and like like a web series or whatever, but like nothing like a traditional cartoon. Barbie never got. So yeah, like I was very kind of surprised about that. But yes, this was produced by Saban Entertainment, the same people responsible for bringing Power Rangers over to the States and making a lot of other popular children's shows. It was animated by Deke Animation, which I've mentioned in the past. They have done a lot of shows and properties. I'm not sure if they're still doing, making cartoons or not. But yeah. After seeing this pilot, to me, why do I think it didn't get picked up? To me, it felt like they were just trying to copy off Gem and the holograms, which was popular at that time. I believe Gem was owned by Mattel, not Mattel, Hasbro. And I've seen Gem. Gem is a cute 80s show, but anyway. And for those who don't know, I might do a review on it down the road. I haven't seen it yet. There was a Gem movie, like 2015-ish, I think, live action. So yeah, that should be interesting. But anyway, what is this pilot about? Well, Barbie is in a band with her besties and her boyfriend Ken and another guy friend, I think, or maybe two other guy friends. I can't remember. Um, they just finished a tour. They're kind of trying to figure out like, okay, what do we do next? Now that we're done, now that our music tour is over. There's a lot of singing in this, so if you don't mind singing in your cartoons, then that probably won't bother you. The songs were actually, decent. They were cute songs, but yeah, so they get for some reason they get on a space shuttle. I think they were going to be wanted to be like the biggest band in the universe or have like one last performance or something like that. They end up going through like a time warp or something, and they end up going in 1959. For those who don't know, the first Barbie doll came out in 1959. That's actually the first. That's the only Barbie I owned was a reproduction of that doll. But anyway, yeah. So they meet this little girl who Barbie befriends. Some other stuff happens. They end up returning back to the '80s where they put on their performance. The little girl is now an adult with her own daughter, which kind of raised some eyebrows. Wouldn't she be older by that time? But yeah, it's a fun, wacky pilot. I recommend. Hey, your friendly neighborhood geek here, talking about something a little bit different. Scott Pilgrim, the animation. Yes, for those who don't know, we are getting a Scott Pilgrim series through Netflix with the original cast. Brian Lee O'Malley, the author of Scott Pilgrim, and I believe Edgar Wright, the director who directed the 2010 movie, are also involved. So that is wonderful for Scott Pilgrim fans. For years, everybody has felt like Scott Pilgrim could be made into a cartoon. And yes, we kind of got that around the time the movie premiered. This was Scott. So Scott Pilgrim Animation is an animated short that premiered on Adult Swim, I believe, August 12th, 2010. The producers, Mechalopolis, which was a popular Adult Swim cartoon, helped get this made, which is really cool. Michael Cera, the actress who played Kim, and the actress who played Roxy, and the actor who played Gideon in the movie, they reprised their roles for this animation. So basically, this animation takes place, I believe, chapter 2 of volume 2, I think. Um, yeah, this is basically like a prequel. It shows how Kim and Scott met, how Scott met his friend Lisa, who could have been a potential girlfriend back then. Lisa isn't in the movie, but she was mentioned, so that's cool. She kind of got a little cameo reference. Yeah, like I said, just kind of shows, like I said, how Scott met Kim and how they broke up and how they got together and all that good stuff. How he met Lisa, how he became a band. Well, his first band, I guess, that he was a part of. And like I said, it's really fun and cute, and the animation is awesome. Excuse me. So like I said, this was kind of like this showed that it could work in animation, but I guess that time it wasn't the right time back then for us to get a full series. Um, but yeah, like I said, I highly recommend it if you're just getting into Scott Pilgrim versus the World, or Scott Pilgrim the series as a whole. This is definitely something you should see, especially before you see the series when it drops. Um, my personal experience, I knew about Scott Pilgrim back when it came out. I didn't, of course, I was younger, so I really didn't gravitate to it. But I remember being advertised. I remember G4 showing coverage of the video game. And it wasn't really till I got older that I really grew to appreciate the story and the characters and all that stuff, which I'm grateful for. I saw it when I was older. But yeah, like I said, if you haven't seen this, give it a watch, check it out. I highly recommend it. Yeah, peace.